Welcome to this episode of Hampton Roads Business Live. My name is Rory Graham and I'm your host, and today I have the pleasure of having with me Don Matthews from Endotech LLC, based in Richmond actually, but has a very fascinating product that I can't wait to talk about. There's one thing we need nowadays, it's savings, way to save on energy, and you hear a lot of little, this could save you this, or you could cut down on that, or whatever. But what you have is truly a significant energy-saving series of products. So tell us, what is Endotech?
Well, Endotech is a company that was formed to do exactly what you just said, help businesses as well as homeowners to save money on their electric bill. As we know, energy costs aren't going down.
No, they're not going down.
And they probably never will go down again.
I think that's a safe bet.
Right. That being the case, and especially with what's happened to the economy over the last several years, before the economy was affected, a lot of businesses were making a lot of money and probably weren't as concerned about cutting costs. But with the way things are today, and unfortunately I don't think it's going to ever go back to the way it used to be, so that our experience has been that everybody's looking for any and every way to cut costs. Right. And as we know, energy cost for a business owner especially is one of the highest things that they have to deal with as far as trying to cut costs. Right. And we have put together a system, actually two different systems, energy saving systems, one for non-refrigeration customers and one for refrigeration customers, like for example restaurants and convenience stores. And we have three different products that we put on the system to affect the running of the compressors for your HVA systems, and for the refrigeration customers the compressors for their walk-in coolers and freezers. So that the end result is we're able to reduce their energy cost anywhere from 10 to as much as 20% or more.
Which is significant when you're a company. Well, even if you're a household, as far as, anytime you can save 10-20% on a sale of something, you look at it. But if you're a company, then that's a real savings every month for that could be thousands of dollars, or at least hundreds of dollars.
Right.
And we're going to talk about each of the products that make up the system. So don't cover too much. Okay.
Right. Okay.
You're taking all my questions. Okay. All right. Okay. So let's start off with before we get into the products, because what's cool about this is it actually works and it's measurable, and the savings start immediately.
Correct.
So and on top of that, you have a way that people, companies can get involved with this system and basically not cost them a thing. And we'll talk about that too. All right. So now that I've primed them to hang around for this interview, so let's just ask you before we do that, how did you get in this business, so we know what led you to working with us?
Well, prior to this, I had been involved with saving customers on their energy bills, but it was through the states that have deregulated energy, and therefore there's competition. And that being the case, we were able to, in most cases, reduce their bill by maybe 5, 6, 8%. And of course, it didn't cost them anything. It was just a matter of using a different provider, since they had the option of not having to use just the power company.
Right.
And after doing that for a couple of years, started thinking, well, okay, if I can save them money that way, maybe I can help to reduce the amount of electricity they're using and actually save them more money. So I began doing my research and found a couple of different companies that have some products that each of which on its own saves, but it's the combination of putting all those together that makes the system that we have today.
Okay. All right. Now the systems you mentioned, there's two systems that you have, and we're talking commercial right now.
Right.
You have two systems. One of them, both systems are called the EESS systems, but one's for refrigeration and one's not.
Right.
Okay. All right. So what I liked so much about your system is that it takes the power that you're already pulling and it conserves, it recycles it back. The stuff that you were paying for, but losing,
Right.
it recycles that back. So you're able to really capitalize on what you're getting from the power company. And it also, the different products work to conserve the power and to use it more efficiently. And so let's just start with, pick one of them you want to start with, because we got
Right,
endo
okay.
tubes, endo chips, endo caps.
Right. Well, let's start with the endo tubes,
Okay.
and
That
of
was your
course
first one.
that's for the refrigeration customers, and primarily we're talking about, for the most part, restaurants and convenience stores, which we all know have big walk-in coolers and freezers, and we have a proprietary solution that we put into food-grade stainless steel tubes, and it's hung up in the ceilings of these walk-in coolers and freezers.
Yeah, it's kind of in racks. So
Right,
you got, like, multiple tubes in racks. Okay.
Right. And what it does is it does not create cold, but it helps to hold the cold so that they're able to maintain a more constant, as you know, people are constantly in and out getting product, taking out, so forth, and warm air is let in. And so that causes the temperature to go up. Well, with the tubes being in there, it helps the temperature to stay more constant. And when you can hold a more constant temperature, it also helps with the freshness and so forth of the food that's
And
in
it
there.
helps with the moisture too.
Right.
Which was amazing.
Right.
I've seen the pictures and stuff of that. So yeah.
Not so much in coolers do they have problems, but definitely in freezers. Because of the extreme cold air, and when you let warm air in, it causes condensation to build up. And with our tubes, what it does is it draws the humidity and moisture to them, and then over time will dissipate it out through the evaporators, so that depending upon the severity of the problem they currently have, over time it will eliminate all of that ice buildup, and actually we're able to, in most cases, reduce the number of defrost cycles that they normally have to use in order to get the ice out. And all that causes reduction in electricity, which is savings of money.
And there's no upkeep. There's
No.
there's no moving parts.
No,
There's
you
nothing-
put them in and forget it.
Yeah, put it in, forget it, and reap the savings. Okay.
Right.
All right. Now, with a freezer, you could add something else. So you could add endo caps.
Right.
Let's talk about endo caps.
Which are capacitors. And as you stated earlier, basically what they do is anytime electric motor turns on, it calls for more electricity than it really needs. And without a capacitor being hooked up to that compressor, what happens is you're paying for that excess energy, but it's being dissipated either through the windings in that electric motor, which also causes that motor to get hot, or it goes out through the ground. Okay, so what happens is our capacitor will actually capture that excess energy, store it, and recycle it when needed. So the net result is, for example, if I put an amp meter on that compressor, and maybe right now it requires 30 amps in order to run. Okay, then I hook up the capacitor, and then I check it again on the line side, and now it's only requiring 20 amps from the power company because the other 10 is coming from the stored energy that's in that capacitor.
Right. Okay. So by conserving the power you've already pulled and recycling it, you're
Right.
able to.
In other words, the customer's always paying for it,
Right.
but right now a lot of it's, probably a third of it's being wasted.
Right. Okay. All right. Okay. So now we got endo tubes and endo caps. All right. So now let's go to endo chips.
Okay, well, let me also say that the endo caps we use on the HVA system, and we hook it up to their compressors, okay?
Right.
And the same thing is true. In other words, it's going to,
So you
Take-
don't need refrigeration system for that. I mean,
Right,
that
right.
can work on anything. Okay.
exactly. And the endo chip is actually hooked up in refrigeration situation, it's hooked up to the evaporator fans, okay? And what it does is, right now, those fans only run a certain length of time after the compressor cuts off, but there's still cold air that's been created that's sitting there basically going to waste. So what this chip does is it figures out how much extended time those fans need to run in order to pull out 100% of the cold air that's been created. Therefore, the net result meaning that compressor is going to cycle and run less per hour than it was. And if it's running less, obviously it's going to use less electricity.
Okay, and you actually have a fourth product that can be used for either system, and actually can be used for homes too, and that's one that's a surge protector, right?
Correct.
Okay.
And what makes ours unique over the competition is, it's hooked up to the main power panel.
So it does the whole...
So it protects, whether it's a house or a business, it's going to protect everything electrical in that place. And the difference is with ours, in other words, most of the competition, or all of the competition that I'm aware of, theirs, when it gets hit with a surge, yes, it's going to protect whatever's in there, but it's going to destroy that surge protector. So what does that mean? You got to get another one put in.
Right.
Ours has a lifetime guarantee. Matter of fact, for your home or business, if you were to move, you just disconnect it and take it to the next place.
Yeah, because it resets itself.
It resets itself after the surge. So whether you have one surge or 100 surges makes no difference. Mm-hmm. It will last. We guarantee it for a lifetime. So you buy it once and forget about it.
Cool. Okay. All right. So you've got great ways of conserving and using energy in a more efficient way for both refrigeration or non-refrigeration, and in some cases homes.
Right.
Some of it. Okay, and when you go into a business, and maybe you can give us an example. You go into a business, do you show them? Do you measure what's being used now, or do you just put it in and wait for a bill, or what do you do? What's the process?
Okay, basically the process is we go in now, and the first thing we do is get the customer to give us a copy of their previous 12 months bills so that we can get an idea of how much electricity they're using. And then what we do is we hook up monitors to the compressors that we're going to have an effect on, okay? And we establish a baseline to show the customer, right now, you're using, let's say, 1,000 kilowatts a month, okay? And after that baseline is established, then we hook up a total system, and then we run it again for a period of time to see what the difference is. So that, for example, if right now those compressors are consuming 1,000 kilowatts a month, and we reduce that down to 500 kilowatts a month, then we've cut that part of their bill in half. And typically, those costs will be about 50% of the bill. So that if that be the case, there would be roughly a 25% savings in that case.
All right, but you kind of say, about 15% they could figure, and it might be better.
You're right. Usually a minimum 15%.
Okay, well that's tremendous, because I know from our conversation what some companies pay in electric bills. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Well, generally we're looking at a minimum of a couple $1,000s a month, and of course we see them go up to $5,000, $6,000, $8,000, $10,000 a month.
And if it's maybe it's a church or some other thing that you could put it on the air conditioning and stuff that to reduce their cost tremendously. And okay, so now we've established you've got 4 products that really work well. They work even better in conjunction with each other.
Right.
They establish a savings for you through conservation and reclaiming the energy that was lost, mm-hmm. and using it more efficiently. Right. And they're protecting your system.
Right.
Okay. All right. So now let's say the person who's looking at this might say, well, gee, that's great. How much does this thing cost? So let's talk about the unique financing or leasing option that you have. I'll let you just...
Right. Well, actually, if I can, I'd like to point out one other thing that I didn't touch on before we go to that. And that's in reference to the tubes, okay? And that is in the big commercial application. As an example, what they call blast cell freezers, that a lot of your big companies, like a Smithfield or Butterball turkeys and whatever, in other words, they process them, then they put them in, and they blast freeze them before they ship them out. And we've had a test going on for about 5 years now in a particular warehouse that they were, before we put our tubes in one blast cell freezer, they were able to put roughly 62,000 pounds of chicken and it was taking them approximately 100 hours to freeze that 62,000 pounds. After we went in and put our system in, first of all, they were able to increase the load from 62,000 up to 88,000 pounds. And we cut the time it took from 100 hours down to only 40 hours.
Wow. That's tremendous.
So you can imagine how happy they are.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So now let's get to the financing, because everybody's going, okay, now this sounds fantastic.
Right.
How do I get it?
Okay. Well, in putting this company together and looking at it from the customer standpoint, my thought was, okay, I think most everybody will agree that it sounds good, and if it does what you say, I'd love to have it. But as we know, not everybody will necessarily have that money sitting around to pay for it. So before I ever opened the doors, I went and found a leasing company that's working with us, who's willing to lease the equipment to them. And that being the case, and the way it works is they lease it for a period of time, on average about 36 months. But at the end of the lease, they pay $1 and they own it. Okay, so it's not like a lease like cars where you lease it for 3 years. At the end of 3 years, you have to turn it back in. Mm-hmm. Okay, so we'll use the example of 36 months. On the 37th month, they pay $1, now they own it. But the savings that they will receive from putting this system in will be, at minimum, equal to what that lease payment is. But in most cases, it will be greater than. So that really it's nothing out of pocket. It's a matter of taking part of the money that they're now paying to their electric company. They take that savings, and then they take out of that savings, they make the lease payment, and in most cases still have a few dollars left over. But at the end of the lease, from then on, they keep it all.
Well, that's kind of a no-brainer.
And I might mention that our guarantee on this system is 10 years. So that, as an example, if they had a 36-month lease, at the end of 36 months, they keep it all for now another 7 years. But we really have no reason to believe that it won't last much longer than the 7 years. I mean, the 10 years.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, that doesn't sound like anybody would have a reason not to want to do that. And you've certainly made it affordable to do that, because the only person who have a problem with that is the electric company.
Right. Well, but actually, believe it or not, they don't, because they're getting pressure from the government to, in other words, the government doesn't want them to keep having to build more and more plants, okay? So actually, there's mandates coming down from the government telling businesses that they need to start doing things to cut back on their energy.
The government is telling businesses what to do? It's amazing. Okay. Well, I have seen the stats on this, and I've heard the customer stories and all, and that's why I wanted to get you in here, was that it's truly something that I think business needs,
right?
And can really save them a lot of money. And as you mentioned, the cost is not going down. Right. So I can see that the need is going to just continue to get greater and greater. So I see that you're in the right place at the right time. That's, Yeah. Is there anything I haven't covered that
Well, one other thing I'd like to add to, from the customer standpoint, obviously, first and foremost, they're looking at how much is my bill going to go down, okay? But what our system, the effect that it's having is much greater than that, because what you have to consider is what's happening is we're shortening the run times of these compressors, okay? And in most cases, cutting it by 30 to 40% or more. So if that be the case, and the fact it's something mechanical, most people will agree that something mechanical that runs less should have less maintenance and upkeep cost. Right. And it should extend, in most cases, extend the life expectancy of that product. So there's more benefits than just
for instance, in the tubes, you have the frost issue, so you've got less food damage or safety issues.
Safety issues are big
for a lot of customers. And falling and all that. So all of those things mount up too. So there's a lot of reasons to do it beyond the savings that you would get, which would be equal to or more than their payments for the system. So
so when it pays for itself, why
Yeah,
not?
it's rare you run into something that pays for really truly pays
Truly
for
pays for
itself.
right.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, it's been a pleasure having you in here today. And so, if you have a company that you're looking to get a handle on your electric costs, and you just see them rising all the time, and you're looking for a way to actually conserve with something that really works. You know, green energy is nice, but it's something that is just a lot of times not doable right now in a big way, but this is something that you can implement right now to help conserve the costs that you're presently having and put that money in your pocket. So if that interests you, please give Don a call. The contact information for Endotech is at the end of this video, and it's also at the bottom of the page. I thank you for coming in today and being here. It's a great series of products you got, and I wish you a great deal of success.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.